ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपरेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी निधि नामिने। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपरेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरम्। ओम तत्सत। हरे कृष्ण। So first of all, welcome. Also, for the benefit of all the devotees, I just want to share news, not so good news, just received about His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj. I think many of you may have been aware, especially fearing the worst. And just as I was saying, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, that news came in. I just saw. Bhakti Charu Maharaj was in the US, a very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada, very senior guru and GBC. He passed away, being infected by COVID unexpectedly during his travel to the USA. He just succumbed to his illness. Very great senior general of Prabhupada, a very dear devotee and disciple of Prabhupada, who has done so much for Krishna consciousness, so much for Prabhupada, so much for so many devotees. Society has been praying for him for the last many days. And the shocking news, just came in for the last, actually, a day or two. His condition has been, gradually deteriorating, and the request to all the devotees to pray. And we have been getting messages every few hours, and looks like around half an hour ago, he left this world to attain the divine association of Shri Radha and Krishna through the grace of Srila Prabhupada. Krishna's ways are very mysterious, and what he may do to those who are dear to him is actually very difficult to understand. So I take this opportunity to offer my sincere obeisances to him because he's attained the supreme perfection of life. At the same time, express our sadness at having lost the association of such a great soul. The departure of great devotees is a cause both for jubilation because they have attained the supreme destination, and also a cause of lamentation for us because we have lost the opportunity. So many times we had the opportunity. He's also come a few times to Malaysia. He's been traveling around. He's been based in Ujjain, but very sad. So, very beloved, very gentle, Bengali background. Speaks very sweet Bengali, very good singer, very good orator as well, very gentle, very affectionate. So it is indeed a very great loss to the society. So we are taking this opportunity to dedicate this katha in his honor, and we are seeking his blessings. And we are praying to the Lord also to give strength to all his disciples, the devotee community in general, to bear this loss and be able to sail through these very difficult times. Yeah. So let us take a few seconds to pray for him. Of course, for great souls, we should also seek their blessings because they are not just departing in the ordinary sense. So let us remember him, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and also pray to him for his blessings and pray to Lord Krishna. Let us take a few seconds and absorb ourselves in prayers to Lord Krishna. I request all of you to join me. Just mentally pray. Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Today, as I was preparing for today's class, in fact, as I was reading the chapter of the 18th chapter that we are about to discuss, which is Maharaj Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy. As I was reading through that pastime, I was remembering His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Because throughout the purports, Srila Prabhupada is also explaining how the devotee of the Lord is fully under the Lord's control. He's not influenced by karma in the ordinary sense of the term. He's extraordinary, and the Lord personally arranges everything for him. And even though certain situations seem like very accidental, very dangerous, and one may wonder at an external level why something like this happened to such a great devotee, one can understand that ultimately it is the Lord's loving hand which is orchestrating everything. The Lord brought Parikshit Maharaj to him by orchestrating wonderful incidents, and we'll be discussing about that today. And our faith is also that the Lord has similarly done this. It was very, very unexpected because he left for the US a few weeks ago, and he was in good health otherwise. I mean, good health in the sense no serious illness otherwise. And looks like he probably caught the virus on his flight, and this happened. So many people are traveling, but how many people get infected? So when these kind of things happen, we should understand that of course we should on our side become very, very careful, but at the same time we understand that this happens by the special will of the Lord. So the 18th chapter actually begins by Suta Goswami glorifying Maharaj Parikshit, because he's been narrating about the history of Maharaj Parikshit, and he starts glorifying Maharaj Parikshit in a way saying that Maharaj Parikshit was so great that he was protected personally by the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Brahmastra, protected from the Brahmastra, and that too when he was in the womb in a very helpless condition. But at the same time, even though it doesn't mention in this verse, The interesting observation is he was protected from the Brahmastra, but at an external level, he was not protected from the curse of the Brahmana boy. And this chapter will discuss that story. So, Srila Prabhupada explains that Parikshit Maharaj is a Narayana Parayana devotee. Those who are totally dedicated to Lord Narayan, Lord Krishna. And such devotees are not fearful because they know at an external level whether the Lord is protecting or not protecting, all of it is the Lord's protection. Because the Lord is always orchestrating all episodes in the life of the devotee towards the ultimate good fortune of the devotee. Even death is seen by the devotee as the embrace of Krishna. Because death opens the door for the devotee to go to the spiritual world, to be embraced by Krishna. So he's not even negatively impacted. And that is the greatness of Maharaj Parikshit. He was not fearful when he was cursed to die. So he was very, very extraordinary. Always very fixed in Asthita Pradna consciousness, being always absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord, always having faith in the ultimate protection of the Lord. And even Parikshit Maharaj, who worked so hard to prevent the entry of Kali into this world, because after Lord Krishna disappeared, Kali was trying to enter very hard, and we discussed how Maharaj Parikshit managed to arrest the advance of Kali to a fair extent. Of course, deep down, Maharaj Parikshit knew, and Suta Goswami describes this in this chapter as well, that while he did that, he knew ultimately what is going to happen. And actually, Parikshit Maharaj, being a broad-minded devotee, was not envious of Kali. And he knew that while Kali Yuga has so many faults, there are certain very good benefits of Kali Yuga also. What are the main benefits of Kali Yuga? So beautiful benefit is described in this chapter. It says that in previous yugas, especially Satya Yuga, if you even thought about a bad activity, you would get the reactions of actually performing that bad activity. So you think in your mind, oh, maybe I should steal this money. Immediately you get the karma. But for good activities, you had to actually perform the karma to get the benefit of the good activity. That was the state in Satya Yuga. Because the level of purity in Satya Yuga was so high that the expectation and the karmic laws were also so much more stringent. But Maharaj Parikshit knew that in Kali Yuga, the special benefit is that bad karma has to be actually performed to get bad reactions. Even if you simply think about bad activities, of course, that is not desirable. But if you think, you do not get the reactions for that bad activity. Of course, if you keep on thinking, eventually you will do it. So it is not that it's okay to think, but at least just see how uncontrolled our minds are in Kali Yuga. Imagine if for everything we thought we were punished, we would be under a mountain of sinful karma. We would be buried in it because all the time we are thinking so many angry, lusty, greedy, envious thoughts. We finished. But the beauty of Kali Yuga, Suta Goswami says, is that simply by thinking about good activities, one gets the full benefit of the good activities. So that is the wonderful benefit of Kali Yuga. And while Kali Yuga is generally bad because it brings in quarrel, it brings in hypocrisy, it brings in sin, Parikshit Maharaj also knew very well that actually, like what he had negotiated with Kali, as long as the saintly living entities, those who are desiring spiritual evolution, they keep away. They just have to do two things. One is they keep away from the four sinful activities, which are meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. Why? Because they violate the 4 religious principles of Satya, Tapa, Daya, and Shaucham. If one keeps away from these 4 sinful principles, 4 sinful activities, and simultaneously engages simply in the process of devotional service to the Lord, headed by hearing and chanting, simply chanting the holy names of the Lord, one can actually become totally immune to the influence of Kali Yuga. So even being in Kali Yuga, one can remain immune. Just like imagine we are in a COVID-19 situation. If we had a vaccine, once you have a vaccine, then we can boldly go around. Yes, I cannot be infected. You don't need a mask because I'm now protected. I will not be infected. Yes, because a vaccine gives a kind of shield. So these 2 principles, again, these 2 principles which all of us are following, or rather most of us are following, are not actually concocted by somebody. They are all based on the Gita and the Bhagavad. The Bhagavad clearly says, here Parikshit Maharaj says that if one wants to be immune from the influence of Kali in Kali Yuga, these are the 2 things to be done. Effectively, what that means, follow the 4 regulative principles and chant Hare Krishna. And remain in the association of devotees. So all these principles that we are following are not just some society's dictum. These are eternal principles which are reverberated in the Gita and Bhagavatam and sages since time immemorial. So Suta Goswami, having described these glories and having described that how Parikshit Maharaj, in spite of knowing the faults of Kali Yuga, was at the end of the day not too worried because he knew eventually it will take this course. He was not envious. He knew. There's another very beautiful verse in the Bhagavad which says, Kalau dosha nidhe rajan asti eko mahad gunaha kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. Sukadev Goswami says this subsequently. He says, O King Parikshit Maharaj, even though Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, dosha nidhi, nidhi means ocean, dosha means fault. Kalau dosha nidhi rajan asti eko mahad guna. But still Kali Yuga is glorious. How can something which is full of faults be glorious? Because there is one mahad guna. That guna, that good quality of Kali Yuga is so great that the faults of Kali Yuga seem to be insignificant as compared to that glory of Kali Yuga. What kind of glory is that? Kirtanad eva krishnasya. Simply by chanting the holy names of Krishna. Mukta Sangaha Param Vrajet. One can become free from all material attachments and attain the supreme destination. That is the verdict of the scriptures. That is the weapon. That is the vaccine. The PPE is the 4 regulative principles. And chanting the holy name builds up our immunity in such a way that we cannot be infected. So that is the beautiful formula. So he describes this, and Maharaj Parikshit understood this. So he was not overly concerned. He knew fate would take its own course. And Suta Goswami, after describing this, he says, I have described almost everything, O great sages, headed by Shaunaka and others, about Maharaj Parikshit. And these glories are so wonderful because the glories of the devotees are not different from the glories of the Lord. There is Bhagavan and there is Bhakta. And the Bhagavad describes both the glories of Bhagavan and Bhakta because the Bhagavan and the Bhakta are not separable. The Bhakta always wants to serve Bhagavan, and Bhagavan is always eager to receive the bhakti of the Bhakta. So Shaunaka and the other sages, when they are hearing this description of Parikshit Maharaj, they actually are so excited again. You'll see this occurring time and again. They're again so excited. They're saying, this is so wonderful. Oh, Suta Goswami, you know, before we started this discussion, we were performing this 1,000-year sacrifice. We had started a 1,000-year sacrifice and we were doing this yajnas. And it is so difficult to perfectly do the yajnas. And especially in Kali Yuga, because Kali Yuga has started in Kali Yuga, to do yajna perfectly is very difficult, because in Kali Yuga, to have the proper quality of the performers, the proper quality of the ingredients, the proper quality of the process, all this is very difficult. In fact, that is why in scriptures many times detailed yajnas are forbidden. In fact, the scriptures explicitly forbid, yajnas like, Ashwamedha and others. Very explicit there are verses. It is forbidden in Kali Yuga to do this. Gomedha, Ashwamedha yajnas. Because you will incur sin, because you will make so many faults. So the Suta Shaunaka and other sages are telling, we were performing these yajnas, and the main effect of these yajnas actually we were doing for purification and to protect us from the influence of Kali. But actually what was happening is our face was becoming black because of the soot, the smoke coming. That was the effect. Now, having gotten your association and having got this opportunity to hear this Bhagavad Katha from you, it is so wonderful. This yajna, this Bhagavad yajna, this yajna of Shravan and Kirtan is actually so much better. It is so much more deeply satisfying to the heart. We are unnecessarily engaged in ritualistic activities. This is the real yajna. And we are thoroughly getting purified, and we are thoroughly enjoying it also. And we are hearing this directly from the lotus lips of a great soul like you. Even a moment's association of a pure devotee is so valuable. And you are such a great soul. You have studied and heard this under Shukadev Goswami directly. And we are so fortunate to get this opportunity to hear from you. And that even moment's association from a pure devotee can save us. So why should one hear from a pure devotee? Obviously, one reason is a pure devotee is realized. He knows Tattva. So when he speaks, he gives perfect knowledge. But beyond that, there is one more important fact for pure devotees, to hear from pure devotees, which is that when pure devotees speak, they not just convey the knowledge, but through their Vani into our ears and going into our heart is both the faith as well as the taste for devotional service. The taste and faith of the devotee is conveyed through his words. And when we give a submissive oral reception to the message of the Lord from such a bona fide representative of the Lord, it actually goes deep inside and develops taste in us. It is that taste that we are hankering for. It is that taste that we want in the Shravan and Kirtan of the Lord. That is actually the greatest gift. And we can see that here, the sages headed by Shaunaka are actually experiencing that taste. They are experiencing that because the audience is also so qualified. They are experiencing that pleasure. Because Suta Goswami has that divine experience in his heart, he is conveying it, and the divine experience is being communicated. That is why it is so important. They are not feeling, oh, I had enough. Like sometimes we watch a movie after some time, okay, once I saw it's okay. Do you want to see once more? No, it's okay. It was nice, but it was okay. Hari Katha, glories of the Lord and their devotees are not like that. Like for Ramayana, in Ramcharitmanas it is said, Puni Puni kitne ho, sune sunaye, dhiya ki pyasa bujhata na bujhaye. No matter how many times we are hearing the glories of the Lord, even though it is so deeply satisfying to the heart, and there is so much pleasure experienced in hearing the glories of the Lord, even if we continue to hear it again and again and again, it never becomes boring. And even though it is deeply satisfying, one never feels, ho gaya, enough. In fact, the more we drink it, the more we want to drink it. And this kind of more desire to drink it is not a kind of a painful withdrawal symptom of an alcoholic. No. The transcendental experience is deeply satisfying. At the same time, it is unlimitedly increasing one's desire to continue to drink it. And that is the beauty. And that is the kind of taste that those who are serious about spiritual life hanker to develop. And that kind of taste, as we increase our taste and faith, as we work towards that, the more we are developing this kind of taste to always hear and chant the glories of the Lord. These are strong positive indications that we are actually positively progressing in our spiritual journeys. So the sages say that this kind of katha, O Suta Goswami, that you are speaking, is actually the perfect medicine. And this is the real topic which is worth discussing. What is the use of discussing so many other things, which is about the things of this world? We have to deal with it as far as needed. But they are not going to solve the problems of the life. The real problems of material existence can be solved by hearing the glories of the Lord. That Lord who's so great that he's worshipped even by Brahma and Shiva. That Lord who's so great that one can transcend material existence and go to the realm beyond all miseries simply by worshipping his lotus feet. That lotus feet of his are so great. Everybody is hankering for that lotus feet. They are so great that the Ganges, which is purifying all living entities, has become glorious by touching his lotus feet. His lotus feet are worshipped by the greatest of the Devatas. Even the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, is situated at his feet and worshipping him. All Devatas are expecting the favors of Lakshmi, but Lakshmi is situated firmly at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is so wonderful. You're describing the glories of that Lord. And that is the aspiration of all those who want to transcend. In fact, simply by meditating and glorifying the lotus feet of this Lord, the yogis develop thorough detachment from this world. And they also become free from this disease of envy, which is plaguing everybody's heart. So the beauty of devotional service and the beauty of hearing and chanting his name and discussing the Bhagavad in the association of devotees, it is a comprehensive, complete treatment. It will uproot all kinds of inauspiciousness from the heart. All envy. Envy is the ultimate material disease. And all hankering for all material things. And in that way, the devotees become thoroughly purified and freed from all material contamination. So please go on. You said you almost described everything about Parikshit. Can you describe in detail? You hinted about the curse. Please describe to us what was this episode. These episodes are very purifying because through the episodes of how Parikshit dealt with these challenging situations, we are learning so much about the character of pure devotees. And that is helping us to understand how we should also behave when we are faced with such serious challenges. Goswami, very happy. When you have good students, the teacher becomes very happy. When the students are eager to learn and when they are enjoying the subject, and the teacher gets wonderful enthusiasm. So Goswami was very happy. But at the same time, he takes a humble position and he tells the sages, "Oh sages, yes, wonderful. Whatever you said is all true. And I will describe, but please understand, I will describe according to my capacity and according to my knowledge. Topics of the Lord are so unlimited. Unlimited in number, unlimited in depth. The Lord is unlimited. In fact, Lord Ananta, the Ananta Shesh on top of Lord Vishnu has been describing the glories of the Lord since time immemorial, but he hasn't completed. So even God cannot describe God completely. What speak of me. I am just like that bird, flies in the sky. Huh? Only that high I can go as much as the strength of my wings allow. Who can span the whole sky? Birds who are more powerful can go higher. Some who have small wings can go at a smaller height. So I can only go according to my capacity. And with that capacity, I will narrate the glories of the Lord to you. But please understand, nobody can claim that they have completely described the glories of the Lord, because the Lord's glories are unlimited. Even the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, my glories and opulences are unlimited, Arjuna. I can only just describe one tiny fragment to you. Please understand, with a small fragment of myself, I am pervading this whole world. So the Lord's power, the Lord's beauty, the Lord's glories, the Lord's divine qualities, His Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela are so unlimited. It's like an ocean. We can only taste a few drops, maybe even take a glass. But who can drink the ocean? So he takes a humble position. He understands and admits that it is his capacity to describe is limited. But this in no way is disadvantaging his listeners. Why? Because even one drop of the Lord's glories can drown us fully in the ecstasy of prema. That is the potency. So this is not that he's saying, sorry, I'm unqualified to, teach you, and I'm not going to be able to benefit all the way. No, he's essentially emphasizing on the unlimitedness of the Lord's glories. So after having said this, Suta Goswami begins describing the pastime of how Maharaj Parikshit came to be cursed to die, and how that eventually led to the speaking of the Srimad Bhagavad. So he starts the narration. He says that one day Maharaj Parikshit, he went into the forest on his horses, and as he was chasing some stags, he came to a place where he actually became extremely thirsty and extremely hungry. Now, Parikshit Maharaj being extremely thirsty and extremely hungry is actually very unusual. Those who are self-realized souls, like Maharaj Parikshit, they are able to control the urges, the 6 urges. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jivva vegam, udaropastha vegam, etan vegan yo vishahet dhiraha, sarvam abhi imam prathivim sa shishya. In the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami says that a pure devotee is able to control the urges, and amongst the urges of the belly and the tongue are mentioned. How come Parikshit Maharaj became so overwhelmed? A pure devotee is able to control. He felt an almost uncontrollable thirst and hunger. And at that point, he got down from his chariot and saw that there was an ashram of a great sage called Samika Rishi, very nearby. Now, this itself was hinting that this is an extraordinary situation. The very fact that Parikshit Maharaj was experiencing intense hunger and thirst, uncontrollable, that this is something extraordinary. And there is some Lord's plan which is now unfolding. And true enough. So in that thirst and hunger, Maharaj Parikshit goes to the ashram of Shamika Rishi. When he enters the ashram, he's hoping that, he will get some water and food to eat, some water to drink and food to eat. So he goes in, he sees the ashram is empty. He only sees Shamika Rishi. Shamika Rishi is seated on an elevated seat, and he is apparently, with his eyes closed, absorbed in meditation. Maharaj Parikshit approaches him, probably spoke some words, it's not mentioned very explicitly, but Maharaj Parikshit was surprised that the sage gave no response. He was actually quite surprised, because the culture is, when the king comes, he is properly received. In fact, what to speak of the king? Atiti Devo Bhava is our culture. Even if an enemy comes to our house, one has no choice but to welcome him. And the beauty is of our culture, even many of the demons who have been described in the scriptures have followed this etiquette. When their adversary, the devotee of the Lord, came to them, Jarasandha followed it, even though he was such a great demon. So there are many such episodes. So he is so surprised, this culture which even the demons follow. So imagine if demons were following that those days, nowadays, how many people actually follow this? It is said one must properly welcome and serve a guest in whatever way possible and please him, because a guest should be treated as a representative of the Lord. Atithi Devo Bhava. But here, what to speak of reception? The sage is not even acknowledging his existence. He is continuing to sit in a meditative posture. And Parikshit Maharaj is probably wondering, was he even meditating? Or is he just neglecting me? Is he neglecting me thinking that you are just a Kshatriya and I am a great Brahman? Because from a Varnashram consideration, a Brahmana is higher than a Kshatriya. In fact, when a great Brahmana sage would come to the assembly, the great kings would get up from their throne and offer the seat, the Simhasan, to that great Brahman. Dashrath Maharaj did this when Vishwamitra came. Those who are greater in knowledge and spirituality are considered greater. In Kali Yuga, those who have more money are considered greater. In a spiritual culture, those who are greater in transcendental knowledge are considered greater. That is how culture gradually deteriorates when lower things are given higher value. And we'll discuss how that comes about to be. So Parikshit Maharaj was quite astonished. But at the same time, he was so pained by hunger and thirst, and that he was also feeling insulted because of being treated like this. He was very upset and he was angry. And in fact, the fact that Parikshit Maharaj becoming angry at a Brahman is unheard of. It is unthought of. It is impossible. It has never happened in the life of Parikshit Maharaj that he has become angry and that anger has been directed towards a Brahman. This is happening now. He's becoming very irritated and uncomfortable. And he's feeling insulted and offended at not being received and even asked for a glass of water, which is just, so to say, almost like dying out of thirst. So being upset by that situation, by the arrangement of providence, it so happened that there was a dead snake lying nearby. Parikshit Maharaj took his sword or a stick or something like that. He lifted the dead snake and he kept it around the shoulder of the sage Shamik Rishi. Again, this was a very extraordinary thing. How can a great personality like Parikshit Maharaj do something like this? It's almost childlike. Of course, in one sense, he felt offended and, not treated properly, but at the same time, this was very unusual. And after he did like that, and he saw no response at all, Parikshit Maharaj just turned around, went back to his chariot and went back to his palace without being served in any way whatsoever. So this episode happened. Okay, Parikshit Maharaj comes. Shamik Rishi is in meditation. Shamik Rishi doesn't show any response because Shamik Rishi is not even aware of Parikshit Maharaj. But Parikshit Maharaj thinks he's probably feigning because he doesn't want to properly respect me. So he keeps the snake on the shoulder and goes. It doesn't harm him directly. It's a dead snake. It's not even a living snake. It's a dead snake which happened to be there. Again, by the arrangement of the Lord. Keeps it and goes. Shamik Rishi is still absorbed in meditation. He's not even aware when Parikshit came, when Parikshit left. One of the children, who is a friend of the son of Shamika Rishi. Shamika Rishi had a young son, a young Brahmana boy by the name Shringi, who was playing with his friends near the Kaushika river, nearby from the ashram. He was playing and he was away when all this was happening, and one boy came running to him and described to him that, "Oh Shringi, this is what happened. Parikshit Maharaj came and he insulted your father by keeping a dead snake around his neck." Now, this son Shringi, he was the son of a Brahman, was a strong brahmachari, learned in the Vedas. He had very strong tapobal, Brahmanical strength, Brahma Tejas, but he was very inexperienced. He was very young and not mature in terms of his thinking. And he was playing with the boys. Somehow, his intelligence got infected by Kali. And suddenly when he heard about this episode, he didn't even wait to go back to the ashram and check out what has actually happened. He didn't even bother to verify the whole story and try to understand the details of what had happened. At that point, being a bit arrogant about his own prowess and in a way, like a show off to his friends, he started speaking big words. He said, "Oh, what is this? Parikshit king think of himself. We are Brahmins. We are great. We are the topmost. This Parikshit and king, they are just like crows. They are just like our watchdogs, these Kshatriyas. How dare they behave like this? How can the dog who's at the door, the watchdog, the Kshatriya, come and sit and eat with the master in his plate?" He's speaking very offensively about Maharaj Parikshit. There is actually great respect and love between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. But he became proud of his position. If you remember in the previous class of the Bhagavad, it is said it is pride which starts destroying the qualities of goodness, the pillars of dharma, and then Kali starts coming in. His buddhi started getting influenced by Kali, and he went on using derogatory language against Maharaj Parikshit, calling him the most wretched of his dynasty. Maharaj Parikshit is a pure devotee, such a great soul, who was ruling the kingdom in such a perfect way. But here, this upstart boy Shringi is actually criticizing and offending Maharaj Parikshit. In these upstart, he is calling Maharaj Parikshit upstart. Even though he is himself an inexperienced upstart, he's saying, these upstarts, they are behaving like this. They think they are the boss. I will show who is the boss. Now I will show my Brahmanical power and show this particular king his true position. And he took some water from the Kaushika river and he started cursing Maharaj Parikshit, saying, "I curse that from the 7th day from today, this Parikshit king will die having been bitten by a snake bird. This is my curse." And he uttered it. And he had the power to utter that verse, that curse. It was powerful, but he was inexperienced, correct? Just like you have a gun. You may not be intelligent in terms of when to use it, when not to use it, but you have a gun, you pull the trigger in the wrong way, you end up creating damage. And that's what he did. He was powerful but inexperienced. So he actually ended up cursing Maharaj Parikshit. Then after that happened in a very hot-headed, angry way. He cursed. Then he went back to the ashram. And when he went back to the ashram, his father was still absorbed in meditation. Snake was still lying there. The father was not bothered. He was still absorbed. And having seen that snake around his father's neck, Shringi starts crying loudly. And finally, hearing the loud cries of Shringi, Shamik Rishi gradually comes out from his trance, gradually becomes conscious of the external situation. And as he comes into external consciousness, he notices that there is a dead snake lying around his shoulder. Bothered too much about it. He just picks it up and just throws it to the side. He's not angry, he's not upset, he's not even bothered how it came on him. It's a small thing. What's the big deal? And then Shringi comes crying to him. Then he understands from Shringi, and of course by his own tapobala, what has actually happened. Of how Maharaj Parikshit came here being affected by hunger and thirst, and how this whole episode turned out, and how his son has cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die. And when he understands and hears that Maharaj Parikshit has been cursed to die, he becomes so upset and he starts saying, alas, alas, what have you done? Note that Shamik Rishi is least bothered about what Parikshit Maharaj did, because he's saying Maharaj Parikshit is a great king, a very great saintly king. He deserves, he's a royal person. A royal king he's a representative of the Lord. He must be received with proper honor. Of course, I was absorbed in meditation, so, I was not aware. But he deserved to be properly treated and, served properly. On top of that, he was so hungry and thirsty. On top of that, he's a pure devotee of the Lord. And above all these things, he's the protector of the whole country. He doesn't deserve to be killed. And definitely not such a small offense. What have you done, Shringi? Such a small offense. He just kept a dead snake on he didn't hurt me directly. He didn't attack me. He didn't curse me. He didn't destroy my ashram. You have given an inordinately high punishment for a very small offense. And because of that, you have committed a very big offense. I don't even consider Maharaj Parikshit's whatever he did as a big offense. But you are the one who have created the real offense. And you have committed a very huge mistake. The king should never be destroyed. Because the king is the protector. Kshatriya, Kshatratrayate, he is protecting all of us. Can you imagine what will happen if the king like Parikshit is not there? The rogues and the bandits and the miscreants will create havoc in society. It is Parikshit who has been protecting us from the influence of Kali. Do you know what will happen now? The whole society will become corrupt. There will be thieves and bandits everywhere. People will stop following their duties properly. There will be chaos in society. There will be degradation in society. And who is responsible for this? We are responsible because of your curse. So he's very, very upset. And he's chastising his son. But he also understands that his son is inexperienced, he's foolish. And he just got puffed up and carried away by the situation. And he did something which was very, very wrong. And he becomes very, very remorseful. And Shamik Rishi starts praying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh Lord, please forgive my son. He doesn't know what he has done. He has committed a very big offense of misusing his Brahma Tejas by becoming puffed up by his Brahmanical position that he has committed an offense to a king and a great devotee. So Maharaj Parikshit, meanwhile, after having gone back to Hastinapur, he was also thinking that maybe I must have made a mistake. I didn't do the right thing. He was feeling remorseful. He was also reflecting, how did I do something like this? Did I do something like this? I shouldn't have put the snake on the shoulder of the sage. Maybe he was really in trance. What have I done? And he was feeling remorseful in his own heart. And ultimately the news, it is not mentioned here, it's probably in the next chapter, the news reached him of how he was cursed. Shamik Rishi himself arranged for that news to be given and begging for forgiveness. He came to know Maharaj Parikshit, even after hearing that curse, remained fully undisturbed. So that shows that he was disturbed by hunger and thirst and that so-called apparent inattention by a higher arrangement. Because even after he was actually cursed to die, he was very cool and calm. Yes, he was not disturbed. He said, yes, this seems to be the will of the Lord. Just see how all these events have come about to happen. He could see, he could connect, he could understand. These are not ordinary things. How I became so hungry and thirsty. How I misunderstood the situation. How there was the snake there and how I put this. All these things, how it could have happened. It doesn't make sense. I think, and this cursing, which is also very extraordinary. All these events are pointing to a special plan of the Lord, that the Lord wants me to wind up and come back to Him, back home, back to God. So he took it very, very positively. And that part of the story is described actually in the next chapter. And this chapter ends with a very beautiful purport where Srila Prabhupada explains that just see how the Lord arranged all these circumstances. Maharaj Parikshit, the pure devotee, Shamik Rishi, is such a great sage. But through the agency of this boy, how such a big episode turned out to happen. And there are a few interesting analyses which the acharyas do. Actually, Prabhupada explains this in the purport. I'll just take 2 more minutes and then we'll end. That it was this episode of the Bhagavad where Maharaj Parikshit was cursed by this inexperienced Brahmana boy that actually led to the degradation of Brahmanism, of Brahmanhood. From that point onwards, that puffed up cursing created a situation where Brahmanical culture slowly started degrading lower and lower and lower. Before that, Brahmanas were very strongly situated in their guna and karma. But after this offense, slowly they started falling. In fact, this pride of the Brahmins also caused so much chaos in the Varnashram Dharma. That Varnashram Dharma where all the 4 Varnas, the Brahman, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya and the Shudra were nicely cooperating each other without envy, without any malicious competition. Enmity started coming between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas after this episode. And that is how a truly spiritual system gradually degraded into a caste system where people started exploiting each other. That was the beginning of the Brahmanas starting to exploit others. So all this happened, and that is how Kali made his entry. When Kali wants to make his entry, what does he do? There's a nice saying in English. A fish starts rotting first in his in the head. When the top, the cream of the society becomes compromised in their principles, in their character, automatically the rest of the society starts degrading. That's why the Brahmanas are so important. And after them, the Kshatriyas, the rulers, are so important, because they are creating the framework for a happy society. Otherwise, the leaders of society, if they are unqualified, then people do not follow their duties properly, sinful activities become prevalent everywhere, and so much havoc is created in society. So that is what happened after this episode. So much chaos and disturbance, and Kali Yuga, soon after Maharaj Parikshit disappeared, and we'll discuss about that, Kali Yuga started entering with full force. So one point Maharaj Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport towards the end of the pastime. He says, one may ask, if all this was the plan of the Lord, let's say Maharaj Parikshit is a pure devotee, Shamik Rishi is a pure devotee, then all this is a plan of the Lord. Then why the Lord made it do in such a way that, Shringi got implicated? So there's a beautiful answer to that. Parikshit Maharaj, Prabhupada explains that the Lord created the situation by which Parikshit Maharaj felt extremely hungry and thirsty. Yes, the Lord created the situation by which Parikshit Maharaj became upset and put the snake on the shoulders of Samika Rishi. So that was the Lord's arrangement. But the son cursing was also the arrangement of the Lord. But because Shamik Rishi, in his prayers, after he finds out and becomes remorseful, begs the Lord to forgive his son, because all this is ultimately the plan of the Lord also forgives the son. Either Shamik Rishi is punished, nor Shringi in that sense is punished immediately. But then one may say, okay, all this is fine. Parikshit went back to Goddess, Shamik Rishi and Shringi were not punished. But then all the Brahmanas degraded. What about that? So the secret of that is explained in the Varaha Puran. The Varaha Puran says that it is said that in Kali Yuga, after this episode, in the Brahmanical families will be born those demons who are still on earth but have not yet been killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They will take birth in the Brahmanical family, and they will cause the degradation of Brahmanical culture. So when we put all these pieces of the puzzle together, we ultimately see how the divine plan of the Lord is bringing various elements together to chart a particular course of history, where ultimately everything is meant with an ultimate purpose of elevating everybody, and each one is given justice according to his perfect situation. The Lord never puts anyone into a disadvantaged situation. So this is this beautiful pastime. As I was discussing and reading this pastime, I was remembering how such similar inconceivable situations came to the life of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and how, suddenly out of nowhere, he was in India and he was invited to the US to solve some problem. Normally, nobody travels in this situation, but he traveled, even though so many people told him not to. So many unusual circumstances, and in that travel, he contracted the COVID-19 virus, and then it led to such a difficult situation. And today we hear the news just as we started the class. We got the news that he has left his body and gone to the transcendental abode. So amazing. Only the Lord knows what is his ultimate plan. And that is why the devotees of the Lord have that faith that if one has properly taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whatever is happening in the life is ultimately the Lord's blessing. The Lord's blessing means that we are progressing closer and closer to Him. Blessing is not necessarily considered simply on the basis of whether external comfort, external niceness, external prosperity is coming. That is not the main consideration. The main consideration of blessing is, are these events in our life pushing us closer and closer to the Lord, to take shelter of the Lord, to take shelter of the holy name, deepen our experience and connection to Krishna consciousness? Is that happening? If that is happening, then whatever is happening in our life is a blessing. And actually for a devotee, everything is a blessing. Sometimes he fails to see the blessing, he resists the blessing, that's why he becomes miserable. So let us also learn through this episode and through the lives of great devotees like Parikshit Maharaj, and even today's age, so many great souls who are surrendered to the will of the Lord and are rapidly moving towards the lotus feet of the Lord. Yeah. Thank you very much. We'll also again pray to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj and to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada would have embraced him into his arms and taken him to the highest abode of Sri Sri Goloka Vrindavan. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna. So, any questions? Upendra Prabhu, would you like to say something?
No.
Hare Krishna. Dandavats to you. Upendra Prabhu has great faith and taste and is full shelter, taken full shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we should all seek his blessings. Hare Krishna. Upendra Prabhu is Chandrika Mataji's father. If for those of you who are not aware, he's actually so much senior to me. He's my father-in-law, like my father, spiritually also senior, but he's very humbly sitting and listening. Okay. I tell him to speak something, he's saying, no, I don't. Thank you for your blessings. And anything you would like to add, we'll be very happy to hear.
Nothing to add now.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wants to say anything, add anything, ask anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Sudhir Sundar Prabhu.
Prabhu, I just want to confirm something. You was told earlier that one of the benediction of Kali Yuga is that if you think about good things, then you will get that benediction. But how about if we think about bad things also? Does it also, indirectly affect us?
So like what I mentioned, and the verse mentions this very explicitly, bad things give their effect in Kali Yuga, gross karmic reaction, only when they are performed, not when they are thought about. So let's say I feel, this person is so bad, I kill him. I will not get any reactions for that. Even if I plan to kill him, I will not get reactions. Until I actually kill him, I will not get reactions. Okay, but of course that doesn't mean that my thinking and planning is even though it may not give reactions, that is creating impressions in my consciousness that I will eventually do. So that danger is obviously there, but at least gross reactions will not come. In previous ages, gross reactions will come simply by thinking like that. But in Kali Yuga, let's say you think, for example, I so much wanted to be in Jagannath Puri now. Because of this COVID-19 crisis, I could not go. I just so much wish I was in Puri and I was on the Rath and I was, offering nice sweets to Lord Jagannath. But you're unable to do it. Simply by that sankalpa, you get the benefit of doing it. So this is how it works. Okay. I wish I could do this. I wish I could, even if you are unable to do it. Of course, it has to be a sincere desire. Not that you can say, okay, now I'm giving 1 lakh cows in charity. Swaha, okay, I got the benefit. No, not like that. It is not so cheap. You have to genuinely want. But because of circumstances, situation, your capacity, you are unable to do it. You will still get the benefit because your heart really wants to do it. You understood? Correct, Upendra Prabhu?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the beauty. Some problem with my mic. Is it? Are you all able to hear clearly what I'm saying?
Okay, brother. Thanks, brother.
It's okay? I think...
Yes, sometimes your voice is not audible, Prabhuji, but now
okay, now it's okay? Okay, I don't know what it is. Okay. Fine. Okay. So, yeah, so that is the point. So, whatever way we want to do some service, if we are thinking, that is also very good. And Krishna appreciates and reciprocates with such positive desires. Yeah, correct. Like what I was telling, right? I mentioned this in the group. Just one day before Rath Yatra, I went to Jagannath temple and I was praying to Jagannath. Oh, I so wish that your Rath Yatra was there. I so much wanted to make some sweets and offer to you on the Rath. I was just thinking and I was praying to Jagannath like that. But I'm so sad there is not going to be Rath Yatra because Supreme Court had cancelled Rath Yatra. Then I went back home. At night, I got a message that, Rath Yatra is going to happen. So that, yes, very good. Rath Yatra is going to happen. And the same day night, the priest messaged to me, the chief priest of Jagannath temple from Jagannath Puri, he messages me that Rath Yatra is happening. Would you like to offer some sweets to Jagannath on the Rath I'm going to offer? Would you like to offer? I said, oh, I just told Jagannath in the morning that I want to offer you sweets. And Jagannath asked his personal direct servitor to call me. I mean, from Puri he is messaging me, Prabhu, do you want to offer some? So Jagannath, he gave that. Even though circumstances didn't allow, the Lord accepted that desire. Of course, I didn't stop there because I could do more than that. I actually, donated Lakshmi and I also extended the opportunity. I said, wow, Jagannath is opening the door for offerings. So might as well, why keep the opportunity only to myself? Let me extend the opportunity to all the devotees. So I extended to many of you. Many of you took benefit of that opportunity. And so many offerings were offered to Jagannath and prayers were offered on behalf of, all those who made offerings to Jagannath on the Rath. And I was actually praying, this is very interesting. Again, I'm not saying this to glorify myself in any way. I'm very small and insignificant. I'm just saying that how the Lord is so attentive to our genuine desires. I'm trying to make that point. Okay, we may be very small, but if our desire is genuine, the Lord accepts the desire. And this is what I'm trying to demonstrate. Yeah, sometimes He may show very clearly how He has accepted the desire. Sometimes it may not be so easily clear, but it doesn't matter. The point is He accepts. Of course, in this case, He reciprocated. I wanted to be on the Rath and see Jagannath. I was praying to Jagannath. I wanted to be there on the Rath and see you. And can you imagine next day, at night, suddenly late night, I get a call from the Panda of Jagannath Puri, the chief pujari there. And he calls me and says, Prabhuji. I said, yes, Prabhu. What happened? Prabhuji, ye dekho Jagannath, see Jagannath. He was standing on the Rath next to Jagannath. And he put the phone on WhatsApp, video call. And he was showing Jagannath to me. See. And 5 minutes he kept like that and I was praying. I mean, I was feeling I'm on the Rath because, Jagannath was there and I was feeling I'm on the Rath and I was so shocked that what I prayed, actually the Lord takes it so seriously. You see, that is the point. The point is, my devotion is meager, my knowledge is meager, but the Lord, because at least there was sincerity in my desire. At least I was not duplicitous. I was not thinking, anyway, there is no Rath Yatra. Let me tell the Lord I want to serve you. What goes? I was not thinking like that. Correct? At least, so at least the Lord was so kind that He accepted that desire and He gave that opportunity. and then he offered the services. So anyway, so the point is, the Lord is very keen to accept our sincere desire to serve him. So we must cultivate that desire, and the Lord is very kind. Whenever we desire to serve him, the Lord very soon makes all facilities available for us to get such opportunities to serve him. So devotees have had many such experiences. I mean, I'm not any special case. There are so many devotees who have had millions of experiences like this, and much more, hundreds of times profound experiences than that. God is very affectionate to his devotees. Okay. So today actually Jagannath is now, I don't know whether he's already entered the temple. He was in a procession to enter the Jagannath temple back after the Rath Yatra. Very sweet, taking darshan, and I was thanking him that you are so kind, even though you are also insignificant. You are so kind and affectionate. It is so nice to know that we have a boss up there who is actually so affectionate, actually listens, even to the smallest whispers in our heart. So that's why it is worth developing that relationship. Once we develop that relationship with him, it is such a sweet relationship. It's such a nourishing relationship. It's very wonderful. Anyway, so anything else anybody wants to ask or say? Okay, so thank you all very much. So I will Jai Jagannath, Jai Baldev, Jai Subhadra, Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj ki Jai. I will see you on Wednesday next week. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.